right to propose tariff increases to residents who don't have the services. We've been for the past 2 years struggling for water, electricity, potholes, and housing. And now there are proposed tariff increases. I know this is coming from the backdrop of Eskom and Lungeni, but as a municipality, do you think that it's fair to increase tariffs to residents who don't have these services? Mbele, I have a question for you regarding the recent developments within the municipality in terms of the suspension, or alleged suspension of Metro Mthembu, the head of electricity. We saw the letter that was leaked to social media, and would like to get a reaction from you as to what is currently happening there. Also, do you think that this sends a message that the municipality is not stable when you suspend the head of electricity, but also feel that you have played a role in the strategy of peace in the city?
Thank you. Thank you, Matilda, for those questions. Can I check colleagues? Any other questions?
Not questions, not related to the subject.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Okay, Mayor. Like I mentioned, mine has nothing to do with the budget, but focusing on the aftermath of the strike, I'm looking at over 80 or around 80 that are pursued. Is there any process to replace them anytime soon as the city does appear as though it looks more personnel on the ground to ensure that it's back to its what you call former zone? In many instances, it's reads to the east side, and we do know that attending is for many job beggars or first aid people in Mpumalanga a choice of nation to visit during the Easter holidays. In fact, some schools will be making their holiday, they are really here for holidays. There's been a great fear of concern for us who work for radios, and we took an example because we broadcast most for them that side of Gauteng. There's been fear, and of course questions on social that is attending the same, is attending too clean was to come. What's your response to those members that are preparing to make their way down?
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, colleagues, for those questions. I will now invite the Honorable Mayor to respond to the questions. Thank you.
Firstly, let's thank you, colleagues, for making yourself available for such a long day. It's really commendable that you gave yourself enough time to report to the members of the public on what you are doing as a city. Let me start with the issues of people not accessing services. The generic statements normally refers to the majority. More people should not have water in it, which is not true. We know the areas that have got challenges of water, but the majority of residents still receive water in it. We also talk to electricity, the same thing that applies. That the majority of people still have access to electricity in eThekwini. We acknowledge the challenges, and we are not on denial that the city is faced with major challenges like any other city in the world of aging infrastructure. We've quantified that we need more than 110 billion to be able to put our infrastructure back to where it needs to be. But that does not imply that as a city we just fold our hands and do nothing. That is why if you look at this draft budget that we have presented, it is putting more focus on infrastructure, investment of infrastructure, both electricity and water and sanitation. Those are the major interventions we have identified. And how do we also enhance our work when it comes to refuse collection in the city? We are raising all this because in the adjustment budget, we approved 100 million rands just to deal with CPD, to deal with patching potholes, dealing with the issues of the taxi rank toilets and the public toilets that are around the city, the parks and refuse collection, to reinforce the work that our units are doing on a daily basis. But we want to bring about more changes when it comes to how the city is responding to these services. So we take note and acknowledge that we have challenges of water. That's why we are preparing ourselves. And the question that arises is that how are we going to get this money to build this 28 billion dam, of which the city will be sourcing around 75% of water from that new dam. That will also require the city to be the one that will be paying more than any other municipalities that will be served by the very same dam. You talk about Ilembe municipality, Umgungundlovu, Woku municipality, and Herigwana, then and eThekwini. So the big chunk of this will come from eThekwini to feed the bill. And how we do that, we formulate this and we put it within our plans when it comes to tariffs that we charge to the members of the public. So there are many factors that informs your tariffs. Firstly, let me talk about the process of budget. Before you reach a stage of producing a draft budget, National Treasurer will be working with the team, city manager and the CFO and their teams administratively, just to be certain to do the check and balances, whether your budget is it a balanced budget. But a balanced budget is a budget that takes into cognizance the issues of ensuring that the affordability is looked at, the factors that inform the growth of the economy and the challenges the economy or the climate, the economic climate that we are faced with. So it takes into consider the social issues that need responses from government and how you constitute such responses as a city. So we are certain that the draft budget we presented today has been approved by National Treasurer for consultation with the members of the public. This is not the kind of stone here. We are moving towards a consultative process, and that process will allow members of the public to view what we are proposing and to raise their concerns and to raise their input. Because when you talk about budget, when we put a particular percentage, we say 9.5%, you say no, it shouldn't be 9.5%, it should be 6%. You must know the implications of that. Is that the 67.3 billion budget that you are presenting today is going to be reduced if you reduce more tariffs. So when you reduce your budget, it's when you start failing to face the challenges of aging infrastructure and other maintenance challenges that are facing the city. So it's important that you follow through that process and you are clinical in terms of calculating rands and cents, so that by the time you reach a stage where you say we are now ready to implement the budget, at least we have done justice. So we view this budget as a budget that is looking at all factors that we are still we still need to service in terms of responding to the aging infrastructure. When councillors are saying, as you have heard them, which is true, that we still have high water leaks, but those high water leaks is not all of them that is non-revenue, because non-revenue is what we have responded to as a city. We have already procured bulk meters so that we check the water that we supply from the feeding points where water tankers come and fetch water. We need to quantify that water. We need to quantify the water that we give to informal settlements through ablution facilities that have got showers, that have got sinks and everything that is required, the basins, which enable people to have bath, to wash their clothes, but you need to quantify that so that by the time you say this is non-revenue water, you are able to give a good qualification that this is what constitutes non-revenue. So we do agree that there are challenges in eThekwini, but we also do not view them as a crisis. We view them as a challenge that requires our continuous interventions. We are looking at many areas in terms of responding the issues of roads, access roads, that we continue to improve them and we convert them from gravel to blacktop roads. We are also responding to other social amenities that the communities needs, because your budget needs to be balanced in terms of its response to the needs of residents. It shouldn't be that the budget will only look at water and electricity. You still need to service parks, you still need
to service your libraries. You still need to respond to the fires that sometimes happen in our communities. So you still need a lot of interventions that will be able to make the city work and work better. So indeed, we look at these tariffs as tariffs that are reasonable, that we are taking them out for consultation. We did it in the previous year. People complain about that our rates that we proposed were too high, looking at the economic climate. Then we agreed with them. We said, no, it's fine, let's come back. We calculated where are we going to be cutting so that you can still maintain the small tariffs on rates, but at the same time, you are not actually affecting the development of the city and service delivery issues around the city. So I think the other issue will be dealt with by city manager. We are ready. In terms of recovery plan that we have after the strike, our teams are on the ground and we are working tirelessly because we know that next week, Thursday, Easter holidays are here. That is why our target is that by end of this week, we want to observe a significant improvement in terms of how our services are rendered. We've started with refuse collection. We've been working tirelessly with all the team, the administration led by city manager, playing our oversight in terms of how we are restoring electricity and water in different areas. So there's good progress that is being made in regard to that. There are traditional areas where issues of water have been identified, and there are pockets of interventions that we have put in motion as a city to respond to those communities. The boreholes program is part of the responses. Additional water tankers that we are buying is part of our responses so that we mitigate in between when we're still dealing with the issues, challenges of water. In other areas, we are also looking at ensuring that we upgrade our own reservoirs. We increase the quantity of water. That's a program that we are working on. Nqethu Reservoir has just been commissioned, I think 2 weeks back. When you talk about Mbumbulu and Adams, we'll be commissioning those reservoirs soon. We'll be calling you to come and join us, these are the responses, but we have put significant investment as a city to ascertain that the response doesn't only address issues at a peripheral level, but we are able to zoom directly to what trouble our communities at a local level. So we are ready. Earlier on today, I conducted an oversight visit to Northern Works. Northern Works is one of the biggest waste water treatment plant in this city. It has been giving us a lot of problems, especially when you talk about Umgeni water. It has been contaminating that water towards the beach. So when I was there, I was convinced, looking at the work that they've already done, city manager and CFO and members of the public, they've done wonderful work. And I'm certain that coming Easter holidays, the mayor is not going to be standing in front of TVs explaining why the beach is not going to be operating. But I'll be having more space to talk about why people should visit eThekwini, because it is a destination of choice. So we have done the same investment, 500 million investment. So the work is being undertaken on the ground. You talk about Hammersdale and Mpumalanga, where we have invested more than 260 million rands to upgrade that wastewater treatment plant. But above that, we are putting new technology that will be applied to ensure that we enhance how that plant operates and how do we respond to the high demand, because there are new industries coming into the area, but also residential needs to be serviced. So we are certain about Ohlange, which you've been following us, which we appreciate. We now also make a call that please continue to follow us. There is good work we are doing there. We've invested 17 million rands to upgrade that pump station, and we are certain that it's not going to be contaminating Ohlange pump station. So let me just stop there. For holidays, we are ready. I think early next week or towards the end of this week, we'll be presenting our plans on our readiness, how we are ready as a city to host our visitors, and the city is still safe. Our Metro Police is doing a wonderful job to secure people. They've been observing them on the ground, accompanying workers who were intimidated so that they can be able to continue to restore services in different areas of the city. So that capacity is there. We are also working with SAPS, especially to look at how this sabotage to our infrastructure. There are people who have been following our employees. When they put the water on in this area, then they come after them and switch off our valves and all of that. So we view that as sabotage. That is unacceptable. So therefore, we have requested the law enforcement agencies from the national level, because we do not have that mandate as a city. We don't have our own intelligence. So the intelligence, it's a national competence. So we are hopeful that soon they'll be producing good reports with good results where people will be arrested, those who are interfering with our infrastructure. Sigan?
Thank you very much, Honorable Mayor, and greetings to the members of the media. I just want to raise one specific point in relation to the tariffs. We are part of the system of local government that is entrusted with a responsibility to raise funding through tariffs. The legislation enjoins us to ensure that those tariffs are cost-reflective. In other words, you have to consider the cost that you incur as you provide a service. If you charge people for using a community hall, your tariff must reflect how much electricity do they use, how much water do they use, how many people go and clean up after the hall has been used. So these are considerations. So you can't go extremely high, you can't go extremely low, but it must reflect reasonably that which is consumed, as basic cost of using a particular service. So we can't not have a stage where we will not increase in accordance with inflation. So we can never go above inflation, but we have to consider that petrol price has increased. We have to consider that a couple of things, the electricity that we buy has increased, water that we use has increased. Otherwise, if we don't do it, we will reach a situation where we will not be able to provide the service itself. However, what we are saying is that we are very much considerate that most of our people are not employed. We understand the global economic factors, the geopolitical issues are impacting on people's lifestyles, and therefore these tariffs have been very considerate. And that's why we are confident that as we take them forward for consultation, our people will understand what we're trying to do. Let me come back to the direct question that you made about suspension of Maxwell Retail. I want to stay clear of all the stories that are in the social media about why he is suspended, about all these other things that I won't even dare regurgitate here. But he is indeed suspended with immediate effect, and we expect him to make representations, and so we have received through his labor representatives a report that we are going to consider. So that is sufficient for me at this stage. I cannot say more, because then I will run a risk of discussing the labor matters, particularly as they affect our individual employees in public platforms like this. So it's no longer alleged, it is like that. So we are going to be looking at his representations and then make a decision based on those. It doesn't reflect that the city is unstable. It just reflects that consequence management has to be done where someone has veered off certain laid out rules, or when someone is alleged to have done that. because that is still subject to being put to test. It remains an allegation at this stage. So where consequence management has been applied, it's part of the rules of the game, but it doesn't necessarily reflect on the instability or lack of stability within the institution. There are employees that have been dismissed, and we have given them an opportunity to make representations as well. So that process is still underway. We are engaging with the union. Based on the representation, some will obviously be allowed to come back to work, depending on the strength of the motivation they give us and the severity of the allegations that they are facing. Those who are facing severe allegations, of course, will have to face the full matter of the law, and our policy and legislative instruments then will have to come in. And then if we end up with a particular number of people who are dismissed, notwithstanding the representations, of course, their position will now become officially vacant, and we will advertise and get competent people to be able to do that job. I think the mayor has said mouthful on our state of readiness. I think we learned a lot in the previous seasons of intensity. So that's why we are quite confident now that when people come this side, they will feel safe. We are putting in place mechanisms to ensure that our people are safe. What attracts them to this beautiful city in the first place is ready to entertain them. So we are working around the clock to ensure that all our ducks are in a row. By the time they come, they will enjoy the beautiful city that they've always enjoyed. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, colleagues. If you look at the draft budget, we are aiming to respond to the plight of the youth in particular, to stimulate economic growth through the infrastructure that we are investing in, so that we'll be responding to the creation of new jobs. So that's what we are doing, and we'll be inviting you to join us when we present the State of the City address, to present the pockets of interventions which we are making to respond to the plight of unemployed youth, women, people with disabilities, and the military veterans. Thank you very much for coming.
Can I take the last one, please?
Yeah, sure.
Are city officials aware of a looming strike, another one this time around, by the Municipal and Trade Union of South Africa, MATUSA? So basically what I've heard, this time around they've even obtained a permit for the strike, but they're still consulting with members as to when we can actually kick off. But what I've heard is that their main focus in this strike is what they say was a blind approach by the municipality in handling the strike by members linked or affiliated to the union. Some, is the city aware of this impending on strike? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we've heard about it. I haven't seen a formal notification of when they're going to be starting, but we've heard about it. I haven't even seen the application itself or the actual approval from the relevant authority for them to embark on that certificate. So we will cross that bridge when we reach it.
Yeah, we can just say MATUSA is not yet recognized formally as a union. But you know the freedom of association in South Africa. You can come and be a group and say something, so it is recognized. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, members of the media. The briefing is adjourned. Sibonga kakhulu Baba Mayor.
Luckily, no one pays at any SABC for Isuzu, so we're done.
Siyabonga, siyabonga. Thank you very much for coming, colleagues.